Hi, Jewish Mom. So I was telling you a few weeks ago about short Fridays, the short Fridays that we have nowadays to get ready for Shabbat that come in so early. And so I was telling you all these tips. And so this last Friday, I actually, for whatever reason, had another terrible Friday where I was really, really, as like in the hours leading up to Shabbat, I was just really feeling really overwhelmed. And by the time Shabbat was coming, just so exhausted. And that sort of that feeling of just resentment and exhaustion sort of, or this like overwhelm sort of lingered through the rest of Shabbat, at least until the morning. So I wanted to just tell you, in the morning, I read two articles in Beta magazine, which sort of helped to cheer me up. So I thought that I'm going to share what I read that cheered me up, and I think probably a lot of you are coping with like this mega snowstorm, and one of the largest, it seems like, in all of history, hitting the East Coast now. So I hope that this will provide some inspiration as you are cooped up with your family members. We also in Jerusalem are actually outside my window now. It is completely pouring, and we're getting ready also for a much smaller Jerusalem scale snowstorm. So I can sort of relate to that feeling, a little bit. So I wanted to just tell you two things that cheered me up, and I hope that they'll be helpful to you also as you cope with your snowstorm and your family members. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to share, is something that I read from my dear Havruta, already for 8.5 years now, Sarah Debbie Goodfriend, who I think is watching this. Hi, Sarah Debbie. And she's a columnist for Bina and also H.com. And she wrote something really beautiful this week for Bina magazine. By the way, Bina magazine has just undergone like a whole transformation in like the way and the way that it looks and its presentation. It's really graphic design, really beautiful. They've done a beautiful repackaging of Bina magazine, so you might want to check it out. So, she writes in this week, and I guess this week she wrote in reality check, what's inside the clay. So she writes about a person, a man who's feeling sort of miserable. He's feeling like he's basically wasted his life, feeling really down. He's standing on a cliff overlooking the ocean, and he comes across a bag full of balls of clay balls. And just like, and he like, he looks at the clay balls, and just like as he's sort of walking along, he sort of absentmindedly starts throwing the balls, tossing the balls into the ocean, into the waves. Okay, then what happens? It says, Sarah Debbie writes, as he stood still, he dropped a clay ball and watched it hit a sharp rock next to his feet. The ball split open and a diamond, the color of ice, fell onto the sand. The man gasped and picked up the jewel. He held it up to the wintry light and marveled at its beauty. Quickly he broke open another clay ball and found another perfect diamond. He stared into the ocean, thinking of all the clay balls he had just thrown into its depths, believing that they were just clumps of dirt. All this time he had been holding a bag of diamonds. How many times do we walk around with bags full of clay, throwing out precious moments and opportunities because we don't bother to look at what's inside of them? We so often search for more time, more money, more clothes. We don't realize that Hashem is giving us a bag every day with exactly what we need. We just mistake the diamonds for clay. How many times have I wondered what my purpose in this world is, while it was staring me right in the face? A moment to laugh with my children, a warm kitchen with a homemade supper, and my family sitting around the table, building a snowman and sharing hot chocolate together. How many conversations had I missed because I was having my own conversation in my head about what is going wrong, what could be going wrong, what I was doing wrong? How many times have I been distracted on my phone in the middle of one of my children's stories, and by the time I look up, the story is over. The child has given up, and I'm standing there wondering, did I just miss something? I'm skipping a little bit. And that is what is the bag almost buried in the ice-crusted sand. Balls that look like clay but are filled with diamonds. Diamonds of moments, one after another, that make life extraordinary and beautiful. Moments that lead us towards our ultimate purpose. That tell us exactly what we are supposed to do. Look inside the clay. Dance like the ocean. Hold onto the diamonds in your arms. Oh. So I read this article feeling very resentful and overwhelmed and da 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 da. And I just looked over at my children playing in the living room. Just thinking, look at that. Just look at the diamonds. Look at the diamonds that Hashem has given me. And and I at that moment I could just go and sit with them and or even without even just sitting down and having quality time with them, just like appreciate them, just do what I'm doing, look over them and just get nachat as opposed to a feeling of just like overwhelmed, resentful, whatever. That helped. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful idea. Thank you very much, Sarah Debbie. Beautiful article. And then I read another article which I really loved, by Mindy Blumenfeld, who is a social worker. She's a clinical social worker. And I love her stuff. I find her very, very genuine and right on. And so she wrote an article called Mindfully Living, Loving Life. Okay, so she writes here, she says, she writes about mindfulness. And she writes about how mindfulness, a very important part of the definition of mindfulness is 2 words: without judgment. Living our lives without judgment and thinking our thoughts without judgment. Mindfulness, she writes, is about awareness of self without judgment. Because when we are judging ourselves, our emotion, our actions, and our bodily sensation, there's this critical voice running through our minds. Because when I'm involved in my fabulously busy life, enjoying it immensely, I'm also constantly judging it. And here's what my brain, and this is what my brain on unmindfulness mode sounds like. So she says, oh great, it's already 5:15 and I'm not out of bed, and I'm probably going to be late for my yoga class, and then I'm going to feel fat all day long. I'm here, woo, so glad I made it. How am I gonna make it through the class? I'm exhausted already, and I have so much to do today. I know I am supposed to be following the instructor's lead, but right now I must figure out what I should make for supper. Schnitzel 3 nights in a row is boring, fattening, and messy, with all that oil spritzing all over the place. I wish I could be like Rivki, who just knows how to whip up healthy suppers. I don't understand how her kids like that string bean salad she makes. It's because I have boys. Boys don't eat string beans. At least mine don't. Or maybe I'm just a lousy mother. Okay. All these thoughts are only a fraction of the first hour of my day. I have another 16 hours in which to judge myself, my actions as wife, mother, therapist, cook, laundress, writer, friend, and whatever. Okay, I'm skipping. Mindfulness is about the regulation of attention, about non-judgmental self-awareness, and about the regulation of your emotions, again, without judgment. Okay, so I once went to this wonderful conference about a certain approach called Shita, called innate health. And the speaker presented like non-judgmental living this way. She said usually what happens is like a person, like you're having thoughts, like, like I'm fat, I'm lazy, I'm the worst mother, my house is a mess, my kids never help, my husband never this, da 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 da. Okay, your mind's going and going and going and going, and then basically you can continue just having those thoughts. But what she said is what most of us do is that then on top of those, that sort of like swamp of negative thinking, we have like all these squiggles, and she drew like 20 red squiggly lines above that. What's that? It's like I shouldn't be thinking of that. I should be feeling grateful. I should be this. Why I'm the worst person. How can I not see that I have this and that I have this and I have this? I shouldn't be feeling this way. I shouldn't be feeling this way. I shouldn't be feeling this way. All the judgment on top of how we're feeling, right? So it's slightly complicated to put these 2 articles together, because in a way they seem to contradict one another. Because what Sarah Debbie's saying is like, be grateful. It's like, see what you have. But what I'm thinking is that still, after using Sarah Debbie's approach, like opening up those clay balls and appreciating the moments that you have, then still whatever's left, then still don't judge it. Don't do this to it. Because she said, like, when you do this to it, like all the red lines, like I shouldn't this and I shouldn't this, and why am I not grateful? Why am I not this? And why am I not that? Then it sticks it there. It sticks those negative thoughts there. If you just should like say to yourself, okay, I'm feeling down, I'm feeling grouchy, and I'm feeling this, and you sort of let them go, then usually they will disappear much, much more quickly than if we like fight them and get into this whole like about feeling angry at ourselves about what we're thinking and what we're feeling. So basically just being there, just being in what you're feeling and just letting it be. So just another thing, and I've mentioned it several times, but I've really been finding it so helpful, is that last year I went to a psychologist who recommended to me that taking omega-3 is really very, very helpful in dealing with stress and dealing with situations of stress and anxiety, and even I found for myself low thinking. If I get into like a low thinking mode, I find like taking 1 capsule of omega-3 you can check with your doctor. Taking even one capsule of omega-3 really helps. Really helps to pull me out of that kind of that low thinking, like that kind of thinking. Okay, so in summary. Right, this past Shabbat, I was having a really low Shabbat. And what did I do? I read two wonderful articles. One by Sarah Debbie Goodfriend, my chavruta, my dear chavruta for many years. And she was writing about this man who had these clay balls, and he was just throwing them into the ocean. He didn't realize that inside each one was a diamond. And that's us. That's us with our lives. Like all the moments that we could, treasured moments, things that are, moments when we could spend with our children, spend with our husbands, even just enjoying ourselves, cooking or cleaning up and or running errands, doing whatever we have to do. Instead of enjoying ourselves, we're sort of like rushing through them and just throwing them into the ocean. No, we should break open that clay ball and see, and appreciate the diamond inside. Another thing is so I read this beautiful article by Mindy Blumenfeld about mindfulness. Mindfulness means thinking and living our lives without the judgment, without the thing about like, why am I feeling this way and I shouldn't be feeling this in a way and I'm going to do what I can to not feel this way. Just sort of like letting ourselves, just sort of like quietly, mindfully, like noticing how we feel without the judgment. And it tends to make the feelings disappear much quicker. Also, omega-3, I'm really recommending. For those of you who have, and I guess all of us have, those low moments and low thinking, omega-3 can be extremely helpful. So I want to bless all of your Dushmans with a lot of hatzlacha, a lot of success dealing with all of your family cooped up during these snowstorms. And I want to wish all of you with an amazing rainfall.